Welcome back to the new SC podcast. We got a game this week, Kentucky traveling to Vanderbilt. This is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Central game. Vanderbilt 10.5-point favorites in this one. They don't necessarily control their destiny. As we look towards the playoffs, they're sitting right on the outside looking in. We haven't seen the Tuesday rankings come out for this week yet to see where maybe they sit. Vanderbilt has a shot at making it to the playoffs. That would be huge for the program. Kentucky, a decent roadblock. A couple weeks ago, I don't know if we would have been having this conversation around Kentucky, but after we look at the Florida game, look at how they performed against Texas, even look at the Tennessee game that they lost, how that offense performed in that game. 10.5 points. I don't know if there's necessarily a reason to be doubting Kentucky here.
No, 10.5 points makes me want to put some money on Kentucky. And that's not my final prediction, but like when I think about the wins Kentucky's been able to string here, the last 3 weeks, you beat a 10-0 FCS team, by a good amount of points. You beat Florida 38-7. You beat Auburn. I think 10.5 points is kind of disrespectful. I think that like you give Kentucky 10.5 points. I think this game is within 10.5 points.
I use the same word here. I wrote it on my thing. I was like a little disrespectful to Kentucky. You look at the last 4 weeks. If you take the last 4 weeks in the country alone, Cutter Boley's 13th in the nation in pass yards with a 74% completion percentage. Had Kentucky rode with him from the beginning of the year, I don't know where this program would be. I mean, they're right now 5 wins. They're looking for that 6th. They have something to play for with this game. They got Louisville in the final game of the season. Next week, Cutter Boley's playing well on the season. They got 2.1 sacks per game. They got they're pretty solid running back room. We've seen it with Dowdell. We've seen it with McGowan. Pass defense, not too shabby either.
No.
Like they're kind of playing well. The Tennessee game is one where they let things get crazy, but what team really hasn't with Tennessee this year?
Right.
I don't think there's any reason to doubt that they can win this game. It's not my final prediction, but like I said, I think the spread's a little disrespectful. I'm probably going to pick Kentucky with the points when I put some money on them this weekend.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, right? Because I put in my notes, like, who is Kentucky looking like now? 3 straight wins. Like you mentioned, Cutter Boley, top 13 right now in terms of passer rating. 565 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 1 rushing TD over the last 3 games. Good sample size, good Auburn defense, a very talented Florida roster. FCS opponent, I get it, they're 10-0. But Seth McGowan has had 5 touchdowns over the last 2 games. He's top 4 in the SEC when rushing touchdowns. They have some offense here. And more about Vanderbilt, last 4 games after that loss to Alabama, the 10.5-point spread, I just don't get it. 31-24 against LSU win. 34-31 loss to Texas. 45-38 OT win against Auburn. This Vanderbilt team is playing close games. All these games were within 3 to 7 points. They can score, but can they defend well enough to hold a 10.5-point spread?
Yeah. And I don't want to say that it's to design that they're playing close games, but part of the way that they play offensively is what's causing 1-score games on the Vanderbilt side. They are possessing the football. They're having long extended drives. They are in the highest 10 in the country on seconds per play, about 30 seconds per play. They're taking their time. I mean, they are possessing the ball. They're extremely hard to get off the field, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But they are playing close games. So when you look at Kentucky here, can it be one of those back and forth games where you look like one of those where neither team gets off the field, or it's just a back and forth scoring match? You got 52.5 on the game here from Vegas. It's going for Kentucky to win this game. It's going to have to be scoring consistently without wasted drives to continue that trend of 1-score games with Vanderbilt. If they score, Kentucky, you can't get behind because Vanderbilt can possess the ball. They're extremely hard to get off the field on 3rd down.
Yeah, we saw it again in the Missouri game. They had like a 9-minute drive. They are very good at eating the clock. I mean, they almost have like a Navy, Army type ability to hold the ball. And for Vanderbilt, they're playing for a good amount here, and it has to be spoken about. They're currently number 14 in AP. It doesn't necessarily represent what the CFP rankings will be, but if the dice falls the right way, you beat Kentucky, you beat Tennessee. Some things happen on the front end with some of the teams in the top 13. you could be playing yourself into the playoffs. And so how much of a factor do you think that plays in this game for Vanderbilt and what, Pavia's approach is and what Clark Lee his approach is?
I think it's a very important factor to them right now. ESPN has them about 10.4% to make the playoffs. I think it's because of the movement needed ahead of them. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, get your Auburn, call your Auburn friends, tell them you're rooting for them next week against Alabama. That's a huge one for you. You're looking at Oregon, Utah needing to drop behind you. This is a big one. Vanderbilt, with Tennessee, that's another resume boosting one that could have them end up jumping someone. Tennessee, slightly impressive win. Should Vanderbilt be able to win that game? I think it plays in. I do. But Kentucky, on the other hand, they do have something to play for as well. They want to be bowl eligible. Louisville, not a gimme next week. So this is an important one. This is an important game to the SEC all around. A bunch of teams are watching this game because this affects the playoff race or the SEC championship race for a lot of other teams also.
Yeah. We did a video, or Hunter did a video kind of talking about the updated SEC championship game scenarios and what each team needs to do in terms of winning themselves and what their opponent or what the other teams in the conference need to do to put them in the best spot to make the SEC championship game. It's been kind of controversial if you want to make the game. I'm a believer that if you make this game, you're locked into the playoffs no matter what.
Yeah.
And so although the two teams playing in this game are not eligible to make the SEC championship game, it does have a lot on the line. And, for Vanderbilt, you want to continue to win. For Kentucky, you obviously want to continue. You want to continue this 3-game win streak. And they're doing a lot of good things well on offense. You talked about it. They're doing a lot of good things on defense as well. We haven't talked a ton about Vanderbilt's defense. I mean, any thoughts there?
They've kind of been somewhat porous in the past defense at letting some things fly. Like that's why we've seen so many high-scoring games, because teams have been able to pass and find those soft spots. It's going to be a decision game from Cutter Boley, how you make decisions to attack this team. But we saw it the Texas game. You've seen it in a lot of the matchups with Vanderbilt this year that they can get scored on. But, you're matching against their points per game, 9th in the nation, 37.6. It's going to be a high-scoring game because, you're trying to keep up with that ability that the Vanderbilt offense has. The defense has kind of just been there to maybe get a stop or two. They haven't been necessarily impressive at this point for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, if it's not capers, getting sacks, it's not like they're getting a ton of turnovers. They're not necessarily, they might be able to hold teams to a field goal, but it does play a factor in this overall 52.5 point spread. So it had to be addressed in our preview here. Final thoughts, final prediction on this game.
Yep.
With everything on the line.
I know a lot of love to Kentucky at the beginning of the video here. I'm not necessarily doubting them when I come down to the actual winning of the game, who wins the game and why. I think it comes down to one thing, and I've mentioned it a few times here and there throughout this, and it's that Vanderbilt is extremely hard to get off the field on third down. They put themselves in third and shorts very often because they have those tricky plays, end rounds, quarterback power runs to the side. They're finding themselves in third and short. They're 4th in the nation on third down. They're up there in the top 30 on 4th down. Kentucky would prefer to dominate the time of possession. I'm not sure that that's a stat that they can win in this game because of Vanderbilt's ability to do that. That's where I have the call here. Game back and forth. I think it ends on the final drive. I got Kentucky 23, Vanderbilt 27. I do think the line's disrespectful. I'll be taking Kentucky plus the points, but I think Vanderbilt gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying, I fully agree with, especially the time of possession piece and what they can do on 3rd and 4th down. We saw it against LSU time and time again. I mean, Diego Pavia is outrunning Harold Perkins. People talk about him being one of the fastest defenders in the nation. It's about getting guys in the right position. This Tim, forgetting his last name, the OC really gets Diego Pavia in the right positions. I saw Diego Pavia was partying with Cam Scadaboo this past weekend. Bye week vibes. He's charged up. He's on his Johnny Manziel.
Come on, man, lock in.
I think it actually feels him almost in an Alex Moran type vibe where he's coming back. He's back at the crib. He's ready to ball out. So I like 28-20 Vanderbilt coming off a bye, coming off partying with Cam Scadaboo, the Crayon Eater. I know this is time for Vanderbilt to win this game, and they're going to continue to ascend here in the SEC. So 28-20 is my prediction. I want to know what y'all think here. As always, we love doing college football previews, recaps, team of the week, all these different segments, SEC championship game, scenario talk as well. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Randall Ledet Jr. We got Hunter Ziesman. This is a new SEC podcast.